So friends, welcome to the Silicon War of 2025. Today we will compare the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, Apple A19 Pro, the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, the Exynos 2500, and the Google Tensor G5. 5 chipsets, 5 ideologies, one battlefield, each forged by giants, each born from obsession, not just to compete, but to define how intelligence should feel. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, the king of chaos and control. It's not chasing desktops anymore. It is one. Every core is fine-tuned for domination. Every transistor built for bragging right. Then the Apple A19 Pro, the calm in the storm. It doesn't flex. It flows. Efficiency turned into elegance, power disguised as peace. While others roar, Apple whispers and still win. Then the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, the underdog that stopped apologizing. Forged in quiet ambition, perfected in 3 nanometer of pure confidence. This isn't a chip that follows trends, it sets them. And it's the first Dimensity that doesn't chase Snapdragon. It hunts beside it. Then the Exynos 2500, the comeback story. Once a name shadowed by doubt, now reborn through redemption. Samsung's 3 nanometer get all around marvel. Leaner, cooler, and smarter. And then there is the Google Tensor G5, the philosopher, built not for raw speed, but for understanding. The first to think with you, not just for you. So, 5 titans, 5 philosophies. This isn't just a benchmark war. It's a war of ideologies, a clash between raw muscle and mindful design, between who computes faster and who understands deeper. So this is the Silicon War of 2025, where nanometer shapes destiny, AI becomes identity, and every chip tells its own story of what the future really means. And hey, if you're new here, then hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon, because I'm all about brutally honest camera reviews, gaming reviews, smartphone reviews, and chipset reviews like this one. Now friends, when the dust settles and the marketing fades, the truth always shows up in one place, the scoreboard. And 2025 scoreboard, it looks like a scene from Tech Apocalypse. Everything faster, harder, and meaner than ever. So let's start with the monster, Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 with AnTuTu version 10 score of 4,288,382 points. It's pure destruction, breaking the score down to CPU at 1,212,902 points, GPU at 1,469,542 points, memory at 600,024 points, and UX at 1,005,914 points. Now, over the Geekbench 6, it flexes 3,596 single-core and 12,013 multi-core, while the GPU compute score of 28,316 screams this top tier. This isn't a mobile silicon anymore. It's a portable, overclocked PC pretending to be a smartphone's chipset. Then comes the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, the new heavyweight that refuses to stay in anyone's shadow. Now, in benchmarks, the Vivo X300 Pro scores a stunning 4,011,932 points on AnTuTu version 10. Breaking it down, CPU achieved 1,043,247 points. The GPU achieved a massive 1,510,982 points, even faster than Qualcomm. The memory achieved 667,254 points. The UX achieved 790,449 points. And in the Geekbench 6, it scores 3,460 in single-core and 10,192 in multi-core, with a compute score of 24,891. So for MediaTek, this isn't evolution. It's a full-blown uprising. Now, the Apple A19 Pro doesn't shout, it hums. It achieves a total AnTuTu version 10 score of 2,579,066. Now, breaking them down, the CPU achieved 890,736. GPU achieved 917,743. The memory achieved 386,000. And the UX achieved 384,560. Now, in the Geekbench 6, it scores 3,899 in single core and 10,021 in multi-core. It's not the highest, but it doesn't need to be. Now, the redemption are the Samsung Exynos 2500. It achieves a total score of 2,047,807. Breaking it down, CPU achieved 486,530. The GPU achieved 828,627. The memory achieved 441,040. And finally, the UX achieved 291,610. Slower, right? Now, over to the Geekbench 6, 2,522 in single core and 9,015 in multi-core, with the GPU compute score of 25,840. So no, It's not a throne taker, but it's a statement. And finally, the quiet disruptor, the Google Tensor G5. It achieves 1,523,930 in AnTuTu version 10. Breaking them down, the CPU achieved 391,196 points, and GPU achieved 520,531 points, memory achieved 344,714 points, and finally the UX achieved 267,489 points. Now over to the Geekbench 6. It achieves 2,276 in single core and 6,173 in multi-core. It is the philosopher of the pack, slow on paper but smarter in purpose. So who's the winner here? Well friends, it depends. Benchmarks like AnTuTu version 10 and Geekbench 6 don't tell the whole story. They depend on optimization, thermal control, and operating system behind the silicon. But if you're talking raw, untapped performance, then the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 still wears the crown. Though, let's be honest, the Dimensity 9500 is right there in its shadow, close enough to call it a draw. Still, if one chip rules the chaos of 2025, it's the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Now, here's where the marketing stops and the architecture speaks for itself. Every one of these chipsets has a different philosophy of power, and you can feel it in the way they compute. At the top of the food chain sits a beast that's barely pretending to be a mobile chipset anymore. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It's powered by the 3rd Gen Orange CPU, an 8-core monster split into 2 prime cores clocked at 4.61 GHz and 6 performance cores clocked at 3.63 GHz. Built on ARM version 9.2/A and TSMC 3nm node, it's a monster. That's a 4.6 GHz smartphone CPU, something we used to see only in liquid-cooled PCs. With a 16 MB of L3 cache and 192 KB of L1 cache per core, this chip executes commands like a laser scalp. And then there's the Arduino 840 GPU, the new graphics overload, running at 1.2 GHz, packing 1536 shaders and 18 MB of dedicated Arduino HBM VRAM. It doesn't share memory, it owns it. The result, 3.6 teraflops of raw compute power. Basically, a mini desktop GPU right in your hand. Now, Apple doesn't do brute force, it does precision. A19 Pro runs a 6-core architecture, 2x performance cores clocked at 4.26 GHz and 4 efficiency cores clocked at 2.6 GHz. This chipset is built on TSMC 3nm and 3P process with the ARM version 9.2/A instruction set. Now, on the GPU front, the Apple equipped a custom 6-core GPU clocked at 2 GHz. So, it has 6 pipelines, 128 shading units, and total 768 shaders, capable of 2.4 teraflops. Now, the MediaTek Dimensity 9500 isn't a chipset. It's MediaTek's Victory Speed, a 3rd Gen all-big core design, rocking at X-C1 series cores, 1 C1 Ultra core clocked at 4.21 GHz, 3 C1 Premium cores clocked at 3.5 GHz, and 4 C1 Pro cores clocked at 2.7 GHz. Built on the new ARM version 9.3 and TSMC 3nm and 3P process. That's an architecture with no little cores. Every single one is a fighter jet with a 16 MB of L3 cache and 10 MB of system level cache. Latency barely exists. Now, its Mali June Ultra MC12 GPU runs at 1.716 GHz with 1536 shaders and 12 pipelines, pushing 5.2 teraflops of compute power. That's the highest GPU throughput of any Android chip right now. Yes, even over Snapdragon, but Qualcomm still edges in real-world gaming stability. So, with 119% stronger ray tracing, Unreal Engine 5.5 integration, and AI-based frame upscaling, the 95 turns smartphones into consoles. Now, this is where redemption turns into Silicon R. Exynos 2500 wields a 10-core structure, 1 + 7 + 2. 1 Cortex X925 core clock at 3.3 GHz, 2 Cortex A725 cores clock at 2.74 GHz, 5 Cortex A725 cores clocked at 2.36 GHz, and 2 Cortex A520 cores clocked at 1.8 GHz, all on Samsung's evolutionary 3nm gate-all-round process, the Eclipse 950 GPU, born from AMD's Ordine 3 architecture. It runs 8 pipelines, 128 shading units, and 1024 shaders at 9900 MHz, outputting 4.9 teraflops of compute power. That's console-class territory. Its support for Qualcomm version 1.1, DirectX 12.1, and hardware ray tracing puts it right in the ring with the big players. Now, where others chase cycles, Google's Tensor G5 chases context. It's an 8-core layout, 1 + 5 + 2, 1 Cortex X4 core clock at 3.78 GHz, 5 Cortex A725 cores clock at 3.05 GHz, and 2 Cortex A520 cores clocked at 2.0 GHz, all built on TSMC's 3nm process. The structure looks aggressive but hides a secret. It's tuned for AI throughput, not raw bursts. And the Power VRDXT GPU is a wild card. It's clocked at 1.1 GHz and have 6 pipelines, 128 shading units, and 768 shaders with up to 1.68 teraflops of compute power. It's not a powerhouse, but it's designed around low latency image processing and tensor operations. So what's the verdict? If you line them up, then it's a symphony of extremes. This is one of the most diverse generation of silicon we've ever seen. Each chip has a distinct personality. Snapdragon's raw aggression, Apple's surgical precision, MediaTek's fearless confidence, Samsung's long-awaited rebirth, Google's quiet intellect. The battlefield isn't just about who wins, it's about who evolves. And if I had to choose a champion, then it's none other than the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Unbeatable, undisputed, and unstoppable. Now, if the CPU and GPU are the brain and muscles, then the memory is the bloodstream, feeding every frame and process. And in 2025, that flow is faster than ever. First, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It runs on LPDDR5X RAM at 5300 MHz on a quad-channel 4x 16-bit bus, delivering 84.8 gigabits bandwidth and supporting up to 24 GB of RAM. It's paired with UFS 4.1 storage, a 24 MB CPU cache, and 18 MB Adreno HBM VRAM, forming a multi-tier data path that's fast, efficient, and low latency. Now, the Apple A19 Pro features 12 GB of LPDDR5X RAM on a quad-channel unified memory system at 9600 MTS, with a 32 MB of system-level cache reaching 25.8 gigabits bandwidth. Plus, MediaTek uses LPDDR5X RAM at 10,667 MTS, the fastest in the industry, with a quad-line UFS 4.1 storage combined with 16 MB of L3 cache and 10 MB of system-level cache. It hits a stunning 85.3 Gbps bandwidth. Now, Exynos 2500 carries LPDDR5X RAM at 4800 MHz, achieves 76.8 gigabits bandwidth and UFS 4.0 storage with support for up to 24 GB of RAM. Now, the Google Tensor G5 uses quad-channel LPDDR5X RAM with a memory frequency of 9600 Mbps and UFS 4.0. It's optimized for AI throughput over raw speed. So friends, the winner here is the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, thanks to its quad-lane UFS 4.1 storage and record-breaking 10,667 MTS RAM speed, leading the 2025 memory race, as you can see. Now friends, raw performance no longer defines greatness. This year, it's about awareness, about chips that don't just calculate, but understand. Let's talk the AI evolution. Starts with the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. At the heart of this chipset lies the Hexagon NPU, clocking at a monstrous 70 to 85 TOPS. It runs a dual-engine architecture, scalar plus tensor plus micro transformer cores, capable of running 1 billion plus parameter models on smartphone. Yeah, you heard that right. Gemini Nano, Llama 3B, Qwen 1B, even Stable Diffusion, all running locally. No cloud lag, no data handoff, just raw neural execution. It supports INT4, INT8, FP16, and mixed precision, balancing efficiency and accuracy in real time. And with AI Engine 4.0, it's tuned for text-to-image, voice cloning, real-time translation, and contextual awareness, all running natively on your smartphone. Now, Apple's Neural Engine with 16-core engine hits 3.5x faster AI performance than the M4. The A19 Pro delivers roughly 48 TOPS dedicated to machine learning. But that's not the whole story. Apple fuses its neural engine directly with the CPU and GPU, creating an integrated mesh of intelligence. It supports on-device large language models, real-time transcription, smart HDR AI segmentation, and even local generative editing inside Photos and Safari. The magic: every byte is private, no cloud dependency, no data handoff. Now, MediaTek went surgical this year. Their APS790 AI engine punches at 100 TOPS total, using a 4-core heterogeneous setup, dual INT4 8 matrix accelerator, 1 vector unit, and 1 FP16 compute unit. But the trick is not raw power, it's efficiency. Dimensity's APU can partition workloads between CPU, GPU, and NPU in real time. So, if you are generating AI video backgrounds, it will run an inference on all three at once, cutting render time and energy used by nearly 40%. And for the Gen AI creators, this chipset is a beast. Stable Diffusion XL, SD Turbo, Llama 3B, all fully supported locally. Plus, it's the first chip to use AI VRS, variable rate shading, an adaptive rendering technique that adjusts detail dynamically based on eye tracking or focus zone. Pretty fast. Now friends, This one's personal. Samsung NPU delivers 59 top, 39% jump over the last year. But the real win isn't design. Two 12 meg clusters, one vector engine, and all new AI scheduler that prioritizes real-time inference. It's trained to handle generative AI, mobile bird inference, contextual translation, and multi-layer reasoning locally. That means your phone doesn't just respond faster, it understands better. And then there's the Tensor, the philosopher of silicon. Its TPU version 6 based NPU delivers 60 tops. But the way it uses these tops is the real story. Every Google AI feature from Gemini Nano, Live Translate, Circle to Search to call screening runs directly on device. This TPU doesn't just process, it interprets. It's 60 times faster than Google Tensor G4 and 2x more efficient, with Google's DeepMind algorithm fine-tuned to predict intent rather than reaction. It enables on-device large language models, inference, image generation, semantic search, and speech reconstruction, all with zero latency and zero cloud dependency. Now friends, who's the winner here? Well, you guessed it right. It's the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, leading with 100 tops, hybrid AI processing, and AI VRS, followed by an AI VRS, then followed by Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, Google Tensor G5, Exynos 2500, finally the Apple A19 Pro. Now friends, light isn't captured anymore. It's understood. And in 2025, every major chipset has its own definition of photography. Some see science, some see emotion, some see everything at once. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 Cognito ISP Gen 4 supports up to 320 megapixel sensors, shoots 8K HDR with 60 FPS, 20-bit RAW capture, and triple 48 megapixel concurrent streams. It features real-time semantic segmentation for skies, faces, and shadows. Now, the Apple A19 Pro Custom Triple ISP plus neural engine support 48 megapixel plus 64 megapixel dual processing, ProRAW, ProRes 8K HDR video, and spatial capture with depth fusion. It uses photonic engine with semantic fusion for balanced shadows and highlights. It records 8K 60 with adaptive Dolby Vision and real-time depth compositing. It's still a benchmark for a video quality. Now then comes the big bad, the MediaTek Dimensity 9500. Its image IQ 1190 ISP plus APO 790 supports up to 320 megapixel, 8K HDR recording, and real-time multi-layered noise reduction. Features like AI light reconstruction for night shots, predicting natural illumination instead of boosting brightness, AI cognitive engine for DSLR level separation using per pixel segmentation map trained on massive datasets. Now, the Exynos 2500 ISP supports up to 320 megapixels, 108 megapixel at 30 FPS, and dual 64 plus 32 megapixel setups. It's powered by 59 TOPS NPU with AI tone mapping and temporal noise fusion. It captures 8K 30 and plays back 8K 60 with AI dynamic range compression and multi-layered noise reduction for ultra-clean, low-light imaging. Now, the Google Tensor G5 image pipeline with in-house ISP supports 8K capture, 8K playback, HDR10 Plus, and 100x AI super resolution zoom. It's powered by Gemini Nano models inside the TPU, interpreting emotion and expression in real time. Features like real tone, Magic Editor, and Video Boost as in silicon AI functions. No post-processing. So, who's the winner here? Photography in 2025 is defined by AI interpretation, not just megapixels. And if judged purely on raw imaging performance, then the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 takes the lead. But each chipset offers a unique visual philosophy. Now, you can have the strongest CPU, the smartest AI, the world's fastest GPU, but it all means nothing if what hits your eyes and ears doesn't feel alive. Basically, display and sound are the storytellers of silicon. And in 2025, they've evolved from features to experiences, starting with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Its Qualcomm Spectra visual engine plus cognitive display processor supports 4K at 120Hz, QHD Plus at 240Hz, HDR10 Plus, Dolby Vision, and 10-bit color depth. Adreno Frame Motion Engine 3.0 double frame rates, for example 60 to 120, without ghosting. The Snapdragon Sound Platform 4.0 delivers 24-bit 96 kHz audio with aptX lossless and Dolby Atmos spatial audio with near zero latency. Now, the Apple A19 Pro Display Engine 4 drives ProMotion LTPO OLED panels from 1Hz to 120Hz with XDR brightness, Dolby Vision, and HDR10 Plus. It features 16-bit color pipeline for precise calibration. Audio supports spatial audio, 24-bit high-res playback, and AI acoustic correction tuned via AirPort sensor for personalized sound. Now, the MediaTek Dimensity 9500's MetaVision 990 engine supports WQHD Plus panels at 180Hz, 4K at 120Hz, and 12-bit HDR rendering. It has features like AI SDR to HDR conversion, motion interpolation, and scene tone remapping. Now, Audio DSP 4.1 enables high-res 198 kHz playback, direct tuning, and Bluetooth 5.4 with LC3 Plus codec. Now, the Exynos 2500 drives 4K and WQUXGA at 120Hz, optimized for Samsung OLEDs. It supports HDR10 Plus adaptive, real-time color collaboration, and frame-by-frame contrast optimization. It has integrated AI audio DSP that adjusts EQ dynamically based on ambient noise. Then the Google Tensor G5 AI display engine supports LTPO OLED from 1 to 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus, 24-bit codec, and dynamic tone mapping for human-like color adaptation. Adaptive audio engine tunes sounds in real time, paired with pixel buds. Spatial audio adjusts to air, geometry, and surroundings. So friends, who's the winner here? Well, it's clearly the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, leading the pack with 4K 144Hz visual and 24-bit 96 kW audio. Runner-ups are Dimensity 9500, Apple A19 Pro, Google Tensor G5, and Exynos 2500. Now friends, speed isn't everything. Stability is, because a billion operations per second means nothing if your stream buffers mid-match or your upload dies during a live. So in this round, we are looking at the real unsung heroes, the modems, the wireless brains, and the protocols that keep the world online. Starting with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. Its X85 5G modem out of system supports 5G Advanced 3GBP Release 18, 12.1 Gbps download, and 3.57 Gbps upload with mmWave and 10 Gbps sub-6 GHz. It has features like AI-based link optimization, 4x carrier aggregation, 1024 QM, dual SIM dual active, and NTN satellite connectivity. Wireless includes Wi-Fi 7 with HBS multilink, Bluetooth 6, LE audio, and ultra-wideband for spatial precision. Now the Apple A19 Pro, powered by a custom-tuned Qualcomm X80 modem, delivering 10 Gbps 5G with mmWave sub-6 GHz aggregation. Tight integration between the neural engine and modem enables predictive network management. It supports Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and ultra-wideband Gen 2, enabling precise device location across Apple ecosystem. iPhone, AirTag, Mac, and Vision Pro. Now, the Dimensity 9500 built on 3GBP Release 17 offers 10.7 Gbps downlink and 3.5 Gbps uplink with 5cc sub-6 GHz carrier aggregation and dual SIM 5G standby. Features like AI Link Boost 2.0 optimizes the signal and power usage for 20 to 25% lower consumption. Wireless connectivity includes Wi-Fi 7, Dual 6, Ultra SIP 3.0, NTN satellite support for emergency SOS over LEO network. Now the Exynos 2500 uses Exynos 5400 modem. Its 3GBP Release 17 delivers 9.6 Gbps download and 2.5 Gbps upload on sub-6 GHz and 12.1 Gbps download and 3.67 Gbps mmWave. It features NTN satellite connectivity for emergency calls, messages, and navigation in no signal areas. Its wireless supports Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, and AI Smart Link control for seamless switching between Wi-Fi, cellular, and satellite. Now, the Google Tensor G5 uses the same Exynos 5400 modem RF system, offering identical 5G, mmWave, and NTN satellite support. It includes Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6.0 for low latency streaming, AR, and multi-device sync. So friends, who is the winner here? Well, it's clearly the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It's unmatched in 5G advanced speeds, AI network optimization, and connectivity features. So friends, who's the overall winner? Well, that brings me to my final verdict. So friends, at this level, it's not about specs anymore. Every one of these chips is insanely capable, but each was built with a different soul. The Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 is pure dominance. It's for people who want to push limits. Gamers, power users, creators who need their smartphone to go all out without hesitation. This is raw horsepower refined into control. The Apple A19 Pro is precision disguised as simplicity. It's built for those who want perfection every single time. No noise, no drama, the seamless power that feels invisible because it's so smooth. The MediaTek Dimensity 9500 is an unexpected rival, the quiet performer that shows up, delivers, and walks away like it's been doing this for years. It's balanced, efficient, and smart. The Exynos 2500 is redemption-made silicon. It's not trying to be the best. It's proving it belongs again. It's the fighter who felt, learned, and came back with something to say. And the Google Tensor G5 is a dreamer. It doesn't chase frames or benchmark. It chases understanding. It's built for the AI generation, for people who want a smartphone that thinks rather than just react. So friends, who wins? Well, you guessed it right. The Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5. It stands at the top because it's not just the fastest. It's the one that makes everything else chase it. So yeah friends, that's all for this comparison. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned so many new key details. If you did, then please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon to never miss a review video like this one. And if you like this video, then give it a thumbs up and leave your thoughts in the comment section. I would love to answer them. So my name is Hamza, this is Headstead, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you want to watch the full review of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, then that video is right here. And if you want to watch the full review of the MediaTek Dimensity 9500, then that video is right here. and the best links are in the description. So thank you for watching.